Over the weekend, a dev dropped a big piece of information kinda stealthily into a live stream chat. What it tells us is that Star Citizen 4.0 is soft launching in the persistent universe with a bit of a Trojan horse. It's not actually Star Citizen 4.0, so don't get too excited, but it is using 4.0's codebase. Take a listen to this segment of an older video I published discussing the way that Star Citizen updates are released. Despite all the work being done, the patch is still quite unstable, and CIG feels it's necessary to stay on the 3.18 branch of code and continue stabilizing before branching off for another major update at the end of the year. This approach is similar to what happened with 3.16, which was based on 3.15's code branch, and the 3.17.2 patch we just discussed, which was based on 3.17. What we are seeing now is a new codebase brought in actually before its respective patch, likely in an attempt to gain more stable ground before merging everything into the biggest update the game has ever seen, 4.0. Let's take a look at why Star Citizen is doing this and what's coming in this new patch in the next few weeks. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. In a way, what's happening here is similar to 3.18, and in a way, it's different. When we were in the lead up to 3.18, the tech content focused patch delivering PES required a delay before moving on to the new codebase of 3.18 for whatever reason. This led to 3.17 turning into 3.17.1, and then 3.17.2 delivering features on the 3.17 code branch that could be moved ahead. Now, something similar is happening with this tech content focused patch delivering server meshing, that is 4.0. But instead of delivering 3.24.2 on the 3.24 code branch, like 3.17 was, the team has allowed the game to move on to the 4.0 code branch, which may be more unstable, but will allow for more robust testing of what will be in 4.0 for a longer period of time. So for the sake of simplicity, you could think of 3.24.2 as 3.18 and 4.0 as 3.19, which emphasizes the push to make 3.24.2 more stable as it goes forward towards 4.0. There are many reasons this could be the case. CIG may have learned a lot from 3.18 and decided to tackle this in a different manner than what they did before. The fact that server meshing is a back-end network technology as opposed to PES, which was an integrated database technology, may make it easier to decouple from the update itself. PES, as we know, required many more in-game services to be implemented and could have simply been more difficult for CIG to get working in-game. Whatever the reason is, this is already signaling a much better outlook for 4.0 in testing than 3.18. And as we get closer to December, it's actually looking very similar in delivery. Come to think of it, both 3.0, 3.18, and 4.0 were all looking at a possible December release. 3.0 was released and then the team stepped away, leading to a pretty unstable live game following its release and going into the holiday season. 3.18 was delayed, though the open PTU was pushed out in December, the live game didn't come until much later, specifically because they didn't have enough time to test it before then. But with 4.0, we can see that they are really trying to get in a good testing period before December so that maybe there's some chance that 4.0 either goes live or to a more stable open PTU by December. One of the major issues with 3.18 back then was that all the testing that was done in PTU was never able to reach the player base needed to truly break things in and try to find the problems that occur at scale. The company attempted to incentivize players to help with the testing phase, but it never reached the level needed. So when 3.18 launched, well, you all remember what happened. And while many folks believe 4.0 will just be a repeat of 3.18, this testing amongst other reasons are clear signs CIG is going to try their hardest to avoid that. Which is good. This is an important update, and it needs to come out relatively clean giving all the attention and press it will receive, especially following CitizenCon and IAE just months before. This also means as the tech preview channel continues testing server meshing in parallel, they may actually have a 4.0 based tech preview patch doing the actual testing. Many of you may remember that in the early A and B phase tests of server meshing in the first half of this year, they were running on an earlier update's codebase. This is because the update they were at the time, 3.23, didn't really give them much more to work with, and thus they were able to get the feedback they needed without doing extra work to update the tech preview channel. but in these later stages, it could be more risky to do that given the tech needs to definitively work on whatever 4.0 looks like. So if they can get a 4.0 update into the tech preview channel to test server meshing like they have been in the last couple of weeks, well, that's a bit of a win-win all around. With this early move to the 4.0 codebase, CIG is essentially forcing everybody to test said codebase, ensuring they can get the actual numbers at scale that they need to for the base of the update, as well as the features from 4.0 that are able to launch early and not dependent on server meshing in 4.0 itself. And that's probably not just going to be one small dot patch. We will likely also see this codebase carry over to 3.24.3 update for IAE. But what are these features that we'll be seeing early that can be brought forward rather than launching with 4.0? Here's a quick summary of what we know so far is included in this sneaky update. And for clarification, the actual update itself is still limited in visibility, so I won't be showing you new graphics beyond what we've seen in ISC and concept images, but I will be telling you what has been shared throughout the community as being in testing for 3.24.2. The Zeus series of ships is one of the final ships from last year's CitizenCon presentation that needs to be delivered. I'll be covering it in a standalone video in the next couple of weeks, but you should know I really like my Crusader C1. This mid-sized multi-purpose ship is going to peel a lot of players away from that Spirit C1, the Freelancer, and Cutlass series of ships, but over the coming weeks and months we'll finally get to see how it really fits into the pack of what the pros and cons are. If you want to hear more about this ship so far and the process of making it, I released a video about that just a couple weeks ago. While there are a multitude of UI updates coming in 3.24.2, the MFD update particularly is a big chunk we've been looking forward to since talks and previs began back in 2020. This update brings better usability, more discernible UI elements, new control key bindings and focus modes, the ability to cast your MFDs to your helmet HUD, and it'll be the first instance of custom UI for each distinct ship manufacturer. Well, at least some of them. I'm excited to see how much these UI readouts improve the cockpit experience and allow us to better understand what's going on with our ships and our targets. Many folks get actually frustrated that the character customizer is being worked on, but I'm glad to see the last bits of last year's CitizenCon showcase for this feature coming to the game. After the entire system was overhauled in 3.23, we are now seeing the inclusion of new faces, new hair patterns and types, tattoos, and piercings, making for more ability to customize your character and even better machinima in-game, which I have been loving lately. Some new audio updates are landing in this update as well to build immersion and add to the overall experience. Players have been hearing new wild lines from NPCs, new music around the game, and there's a new main menu music which comes from the CitizenCon presentation last year. Not a big deal, but audio can do a lot to lift the game experience and immerse the player, and it's always a joy to hear more of Pedro Camacho's work. There are also some new ship updates being delivered, the best of which is the altimeter being calibrated to actually tell you where the ground is. I'll need to test this to make sure it's legit when we get to the PTU, but if it is, this would be a hugely useful addition to the game, especially at night. Right now, the altimeter just tells you the distance to sea level, which is a bit useless unless you're over the sea. We're also seeing some radar and other UI updates outside of just MFDs, like the HUD. They seem to be testing the way ship names show up as well, so now you need to scan a ship to get information on who it actually is. This is good, but we really need more indicators of ship intentions as well, like if they are in SEM mode or retargeting us. The quantum travel markers are seeing small changes too, hopefully to make things easier to distinguish than the current version, which was added in 3.23. In addition to this, we are seeing master modes balancing. Oh, yippee. Boost levels have been decreased for some reason. The Corsair pilot is losing some gun access, making it, I guess, a bit more like the Explorer it's supposed to be. And a whole bunch of ships are getting their power management systems, jump drives, fuses and relays, fire extinguishers, life support, and battery systems. These kinds of updates are all very heavily featured in anticipation of 4.0, and is going to allow a more gradual addition of the engineering features and star system jumping mechanics that are a big part of what makes 4.0 a bit different. Speaking of which, and this kind of gets us into UI additions, the star map is also showing some signs of transitioning to a galactic view so we can see multiple star systems rather than just multiple planets. Obviously, we all knew this was going to happen, but it is kind of cool to see. The mapping system itself is being updated to include cave systems, so you can more easily navigate underground. Of course, this also includes the new cave system remakes, so the rock-themed caves we've had for years are being updated to the new models like sand caves, and acidic caves with water and other things are being added as well. Can't wait until these maps for caves, though, are either things you need to buy, find, or discover on your own by scanning. Arena Commander is getting a new front-end UI, and there are also some minor multi-tool updates in UI in preparation for Charge and Drain gameplay, which factors into engineering and the new repair missions in 4.0. We're seeing the new P8 AR designated marksman's rifle enter the game, which I hope brings with it some Halo DMR feels, though this is just the civilian variant. The focus mode on kiosks from CitizenCon last year, which was easy to miss but should be helpful, is looking likely for this patch too. Game controller support is supposedly getting a step up as well, hopefully at least enough to actually navigate around the game without needing to switch to a keyboard again every couple of seconds. More impressive cloud systems are coming in over ArcWarp that are more similar to what we saw in CitizenCon a few years ago. It is possible we are seeing the GPU-based scatter system entering the game, which could help optimize performance, but it might just be preparations for that. I need to see if I can get more info on this edition. Upscaling seems to be performing better, render distances for lighting appears to be improved, and the skybox has changed a bit, which I'm sure is the biggest point for some folks. This is not an exhaustive list, nor is it a guaranteed list of changes coming in 3.24.2, but this is most of what I've been seeing is in early testing in the new patch. Many things introduced in Evocati get put off until later, and are really just there for some early testing and might not make it to 3.24.2, but this is what we know so far. It's a lot of quality of life and clearly a lot of preparation for 4.0. At the end of the day though, it'll be interesting to see if this can make the delivery of the major update we've been waiting almost 8 years for land more softly. If they can get it in by the end of the year, it would really help to improve what has proven to be a pretty lackluster year next to the communications from last year. But that's a big if. While this is just a preview of what's coming in the next patch, I'll be doing plenty of live testing and exploring what it has to offer on my live streams and over on the gameplay channel if you want to check it out. But ultimately, only time will tell if this sneaky 4.0 light-like update will help deliver what the backers really want. A true expansion of gameplay and quality from things like localized missions, multi-crew gameplay, and the long-term possibility of improved stability from server meshing, the mission refactor, and the transit rework. Thank you for checking out this news drop. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.